Hello and welcome to the Curly Bookworm. It has been a while. So before we go ahead, I want to address two things that are super obvious and get out of the way. The first thing is my hair. I went really short. There's no like big explanation over it. I was just really curious about what I would look like. I'd been told forever and forever that my femininity rests in, long curly hair, and I don't know, wanted to beg to differ. And so I went and cut my hair, and it was amazing. It was the most liberating feeling ever. I'm not sure I'll keep it this length forever, but we'll see. I love it so far, and it's obviously really great for like the summer. And so here we are. Now, the second thing that really needs to be talked about is the fact that I've been away for a while, and the reason is because I've been painting a riot. Like, I've been painting a lot. It's been something that has gone from being a hobby, something that I enjoy doing once in a while, to like something that I'm actually investing more time and effort and all of that into. I'm not 100% sure where that's going to go yet, but I am at the beginning of my creative journey, and I want to share that with you. So interconnected with all this, an announcement that I want to make is that I'm also going to be making art videos and putting it up here soon. I'll take you through some sketchbooks. I'll take you through, where my head's at when I'm painting a certain piece, or I don't know, like stuff like that. Just like stuff that is art related, and I hope you enjoy that as well as these book related videos. Anyway, so that's about that. Today's video is really about me telling you all the books that I've read this year that have been fantastic. Okay, so the first one that I want to talk about is a book called Again Rachel, which is by one of my favorite authors, Marian Keyes. Now, Marian Keyes as an author is very unique. She's like the OG genre breaker lady, in my opinion. So she does a lot of like books that feel chick lit or like feel frivolous, but it is honestly so much more than that. It's funny, it's hilarious, it's comical. Her style of writing, but it's also insane in terms of like the really tough topics that she suddenly pops out at you, and you're like, what? Wait, I was laughing. How did you just suddenly manage to maneuver me into like this serious topic that I now have to think about? One of my favorite series by her is called the Walsh Sister series. I don't think she's written very many series, but like this is one of the bigger ones that she's actually very known for. The Walsh Sister series is essentially about these 5 sisters. Each book handles the story of one sister, and all of the sisters are hilarious. Their parents are hilarious. It's very Irish, it's very Dublin, it's very I don't know, like really funny and very quirky. So I would definitely recommend that you read the whole series, but if you don't pick up the whole series, pick up Rachel's Holiday, which is the prequel to Again Rachel, which is the book that I started talking about. I can't really talk about Again Rachel because a lot of what happens in Rachel's Holiday is going to determine what happens at Again Rachel. Rachel's Holiday came out about 20 years ago or maybe more. I only read it about like 15 years ago, and I loved it. I loved it so much. Rachel is still one of my favorite female protagonists of all time. Rachel in Rachel's Holiday is essentially facing a conundrum. Her family seems to think that she's, partying too much, drinking too much, and she needs to go to rehab. And she really wants to fight it, but like there's too many of them doing too much choo-choo cha-cha. So she really wants to just like tell them that this is not a big deal. But then she doesn't know how to deal with all of the comments from her family. So she's just like, you know what, I'm gonna go to rehab, and I'm gonna treat this as this like fun, cool vacation, and hotel, spa, holiday. All of these like celebrities do it. They go and they're like languish by the pool all day, and they become better, and they do yoga and all of these things. And like, why not? If someone's paying for it, fine, I'll go do that. I'm not an addict. I can totally live without like drinking or doing drugs, recreational drugs or whatever it is. And so she goes to this place called Cloisters, and she is surprised by the place, to say the least. And I can't tell you much more. Go read the book. It's super fun. And then when you're done with that book, pick up Again Rachel, because I am telling you, I was just like, I never thought she'd do it. I never thought she'd actually bring Rachel back, because for some reason or the other, I just don't feel like Marian Keyes is that kind of author. And so I really didn't think that she'd bring Rachel back, which made me sad because I love Rachel. And when I just spotted this book, in my local bookstore, I was like, oh my god, this is like ice cream for a young kid. Like, I'm so happy to be going into Rachel's world again, and I promise you I had such a fun time. And when I finished reading it, I was so sad because now I don't know if she'll ever do another Rachel book. I doubt it, but like, you never know. So either way, I definitely encourage you to delve into the world of Rachel and have a good time. So the second book that I want to talk about is a book called Verity by Colleen Hoover. Now, I've heard about this author on YouTube like quite a bit, and I wanted to go and check it out. I wanted to see what the hype was all about, and I started with Verity, and it was interesting. Okay, here's the thing. I really liked the book. I really did, but I listened to it on audiobook. Now, Audible had a version of this which was god awful. Like, it was terrible. So it says a lot that like, even despite the experience of this god awful like book or audiobook, I actually really liked the book. I liked the plot. I liked what actually eventually happened. I liked the twist. It's a thriller. And it is about this woman called Verity, who is a best-selling author who has essentially met with a terrible accident, and now she's paralyzed. She's one step away from being comatose, essentially. And so she's been writing these amazing books, and it's in a series. I think it's in like a duology or a trilogy or whatever, and the publishing house essentially needs somebody to continue that series because it's been extremely profitable for them. And so then they basically hire this woman called Loan, who is very sort of mediocre, not very well selling author, but she's good at what she does. And so they try to like essentially hire her to finish Verity's series as like a co-author or whatever. Now this essentially requires this woman Loan to move into Verity's house, which is where her desk is set up, her papers, her like what she wanted to do with the books, etc. And so she does move in. She lives in this huge countryside house with her family, which is basically a son and a husband. And this home is a bit weird because like there have been weird tragic things that have happened, and so from the get-go, Loan is like, okay, where have I come and what's going on? As part of her research, she's kind of looking through some of the work that she needs to look through to continue to write the series, and she finds something that basically tells her a whole lot about Verity that like nobody knows, and she's freaking out because she doesn't know. She feels like she needs to tell somebody, but she also wants to read it. She also shouldn't be reading it because it seems like it's private. And yeah, so this unfolds like a whole bunch of thriller-esque stuff, making the story extremely pacey. The only warning that I want to give you is that like it is extremely racy. There's a lot of sex, a lot of nudity, a lot of raunchy content. And so if that's not your jam and if that's not your scene, please do not go into this book, because or go into the book and like skip entire pages or whatever, because there's a lot of that shit. Like initially, I mean, look, here's the thing, I don't mind a raunchy page or two, but there's so many of those that it stops adding value, in my opinion, to the narrative, and it just becomes almost like a tool to get people to read more. I don't know, I just felt like that was a bit like extra. And I did, to be honest, I skipped over a whole bunch of those chapters because I was just like, okay, I don't really need to know about every step of your sex life, just okay, whatever. So that's basically Verity. I think I gave it like a 4 on 5. I gave again Rachel, I didn't say this, but I gave again Rachel 5 on 5 because hello. Okay, so the next book that I want to talk to you about is a very short novella. It's called Gachar Gochar by Vivek Shanbag. It is translated from Kannada to English, and I have heard a lot about this book from a booktuber called Ariel Bissett. She's amazing, go check her out if you haven't yet. And I wasn't persuaded to read the book for whatever reason. I haven't been a great fan of like Indian literature until very recently, and so I've been wondering if I did want to or not. At one point I was like, should I be reading this in Kannada, because I actually speak the language, but I don't speak it enough to like understand literature, so I never actually ended up picking it up. But this book was amazing. It was really short, like 100 pages, a little bit more than 100 pages. Very, very lovely. It almost reads like a short story really, but it's like very poignantly put. It's about a family that goes very quickly overnight from very sort of lower middle class to higher middle class to almost rich. And they're like a regular local family who lives in Bangalore in Karnataka, India, and they don't know what hit them. They don't know how to deal with this money. And when the book opens, there's a protagonist who's sitting in the cafe, a very popular cafe in Bangalore actually, and he's thinking about, like, he's in a predicament. He's like, what am I supposed to do? Where's my life headed, and what has this money done to us as a family and to me personally? So really interesting, really cool. Love the language, love the description. I'm generally not somebody who loves too much description, but I loved it here. It was very insightful, very beautiful. Definitely recommend it. It's a super quick read. Okay, so the next book that I want to talk about is Almond by Won Pyong Son. I don't know if I'm pronouncing that right. I'm pretty sure actually that I'm not, and I'm really sorry. I did my best, but this is what the book looks like. Isn't that gorgeous? It's so pretty. I don't have the physical copy on me right now, but literally me and my sister, when we went to buy books, one day we saw this and we were just like, let's just buy it just because it's gorgeous. Like, forget everything else, it's beautiful, and let's buy it. And the book gratefully also ended up being beautiful. This is a book about a little boy who does not have the ability to understand emotion, does not have the ability to understand body language. Anything besides what you actually tell him is something that he does not understand. So body language, emotion, sympathy, empathy, these are things that are sort of out of his realm of understanding. And so he obviously grows up as a sort of an outcast in Korea and Seoul, and his mother and his grandmother are obviously tasked with this idea of, how do I sort of normalize this child's childhood, how do I give him a good life, and so on and so forth. And something really bad happens to him when he's a teenager, and this is a story of what happens after to this boy. I would definitely recommend reading it because it's so beautifully told, and like, yeah, it's going to move you in ways that you didn't expect. So it's very beautiful. Please go and read it. I gave it a 5 and 5, and it was amazing. The next book that I want to talk about is Know My Name by Chanel Miller. It was intense, guys. I don't know if you guys have heard about this book or if you've heard about the true story. It's a memoir. The book is a memoir by Chanel Miller. This is about the woman. If you know this case, then like, you know what I'm talking about. This was a horrific case that had happened in, I don't know, like 5-6 years ago, maybe more, where this woman who was found in Stanford completely sort of half naked, ruffled, wrecked. She had been raped or assaulted sexually, and she didn't remember any of it. And so the swimmer, the guy who was basically responsible, atrocious. The way the whole story ended was atrocious. The things that he did, the things that he said were atrocious. The way the legal system handled it was atrocious. And I remember following it in the news and just being so mad at what was going on. And I think more than anything else, it's the fact that like they diminished by basically giving him a really shitty sentence. They diminished what the value of a woman's body and her agency over her own body is. Like, the value of that was just like taken away. If you know, you feel like triggered by stuff like that, don't read it. I listened to this as an audiobook. It was narrated by the author. It was beautiful. I took a while to listen to the whole thing because I just felt triggered a lot of times. Just the fear, the overwhelmingness of being assaulted, just all of that, right? Be warned that this isn't necessarily for you if you're feeling sensitive or vulnerable to it at the moment. Like I said, I took a very long time to actually finish it because I would just start crying. But she has written so beautifully. It was like she was born to write. The other thing that I want to talk about really is that it isn't really so much about what happened that day, because the press has covered it, everybody's talked about it, but it's how she felt after, especially while going to court, preparing for the case, how PTSD really affects you, and how intense that can be and how long it can last, and what are some of the feelings that you experience, what are some of the thoughts that go through your head. Those were the things that were really the meat of the book. I definitely recommend it. I would ask you to listen to the audiobook simply because the author herself reads it. And so yeah, just 5 on 5 without a doubt, like without a bloody doubt. Such a good, great memoir. The next book that I want to talk about is Skyward by Brandon Sanderson. Can we please take a second to talk about how insane Brandon Sanderson is? I just cannot understand where he pulls these characters, these story arcs, these worlds from. Like, where does he get it? It's insane. Hello. So Skyward is a trilogy, okay? It's a trilogy about this teenage girl who is born in a certain like planet. She's never known Earth. Only her grandmother has known Earth, and her great grandmother has known Earth. They've never been on it, and so for several generations now they've been staying on this one planet. And she's poor, and her father, who used to be in the defense of this planet against like these really awful, cruel aliens, is lauded for his bravery and his achievement and all of that, until the day that he's not, and he's branded a coward. And so her whole life is really about proving that she doesn't want to be a coward too, that she wants to tell everybody that I'm not a coward, neither is my father, and we're not like a family of cowards. And so she wants to join up, and she wants to fly as well and become part of the defense. And so yeah, this is her story. It's really fun. I made it sound really serious, but it's actually really fun. It's very YA in its tone, very young adult, very sort of light, but superb like story, very pacey, super quick. I gave it, I think, a 4 on 5 because it was just like fantastic, like very pacey, kept me hooked the whole time. Also read the second part of the book. It's called Starsight, I think. I'm on the third book right now. Starsight was also very good. The third book is seeming a little bit slow. I've just started it. I'm like 20-30% in, and it's seeming a bit slow, but like hopefully it'll pick up soon. But superb series, would definitely recommend it. The next book that I want to talk about is also by Brandon Sanderson, because the man is limitless and he is completely like the god of writing talent. I mean, the amount that he writes and the amount of... Anyway, I'm going to stop like talking about Brandon Sanderson as if he is my firstborn and I'm so proud of him. But I am proud of him. He does so much great work. So anyway, so I read Warbreaker, also by him. This is a standalone fantasy series where there's basically a really cool system of magic, and it involves colors and things like that. I don't want to talk about what the magic system is. I'd like you to discover it. But the essential premise is that there are these two sisters in a kingdom, bordering a kingdom with gods, like actual gods who sort of rule the kingdom. And this kingdom essentially has these two sisters. One is poised to actually, and raised and trained to go out and marry one of the gods as part of the deal that the king had made many years ago. And the other one is just kind of a user sister. She's the last, like she's the youngest, and she's sort of flippant and chill, and like she knows that she's not born for anything great, so she lives her life really easily until something happens and she's actually sent in her older sister's stead. Obviously the older sister is really angry because she has felt her whole life that she has this whole agenda to her life, this thing that she needs to fulfill, this sort of goal or purpose to her life that has now been snatched away. And the younger sister who's sent is just like completely unprepared, doesn't know how the hell to deal with it, and she's marrying the god king. And it's a complex world that has nothing to do with her own country. The way they look at the world is very different. The way they enjoy life, the way they live and think and philosophize, completely different. So she's completely enamored on the one hand by this like amazing world that she's kind of going into, this country that she's being sent into with the gods. But then on the other hand, she's also freaked out because she was never prepared for this. She was never even told basic things, so she's kind of like totally freaked out. And essentially the story is about how these two sisters navigate, this uncertain future that they've now been given. And there's a lot of fantasy elements because it's Brandon Sanderson. And yeah, that's about, I don't want to give too much away, so I won't tell you much more, but it's really, really pacey, it's really, really fun, and it is, I think I gave it a 4.5 on 5. Superb book. I would totally recommend that you read it. The next book that I want to talk to you about is called Flatshare. Now this book, again, I think I picked it up literally because the cover looks really cute, and I was kind of in the mood for chick lit sort of ish book, and so I really enjoyed it. It's about, okay, the premise is really cool. It's about this woman who's entirely broke. She's just broken up with her boyfriend who was awful, and she no longer has a place to live. So she's trying to look for a place in central London where she lives and works, and she's just like, oh my god, it's too expensive. So she enters into this really strange deal that she finds online or in the paper or wherever, with this guy who works as a night nurse. So he needs the money also, and it's his place, so he needs like this extra money for something else that he is putting money away towards. And so essentially the deal is that she will stay there all night and up till 9:30, which is when she goes to work, and she gets the place for all of the weekend as well. But just during the day, essentially from like 9:30 in the morning to 6:30, this guy comes in and he goes to sleep. He uses the place to essentially just as a place to sleep while he goes to work the next evening or whatever. So they never really actually meet, and she's renting from this guy that she's never met. She lives with him and sleeps in the same space and all of that, and they start exchanging notes with each other because they're technically roommates who have never met. And yeah, and then life unfolds, and it's fun. It's a really fun book. It's very breezy, very cute, very sweet. I think I gave it like a 4 on 5. So yeah, definitely recommend this one too. Another really cutesy book that I read in the recent past was Beach Read. Now I listened to this on audiobook as well. This was, I don't even know why I picked it up. I'd heard a lot about it on YouTube. It's called Beach Read by Emily Henry. She has a new book out, which I'm also going to read soon. Beach Read is essentially, again, like in that chick lit sort of genre. And it was very different than what I thought it would be, which is why I really liked it. I thought it would very much follow like the chick lit space, especially because it started like that. It's about this woman who moves to a cabin or like a townhouse or like a small beach house or whatever, which is next to a lake, that her father bought and has left to her now. And she's there because her father has just passed away. She's completely broke. She's just found out that a father that she had adored her whole life was basically kind of lying to her, in that he had like a mistress this whole time. And now she has to go live in this place where he did actually meet with this mistress and everything. And it is really crazy for her because she doesn't want to do it, but at the same time she has no money, and she's willing to take the free accommodation and the time to write her next novel. And then she meets her neighbor, who is infinitely annoying, and as it usually is in these kinds of plots, right, the hate to love sort of trope and plot. So I really didn't expect it to be like too much. I was listening to it as an audiobook while I did my chores, but I really liked the format of it. I felt like, yes, it does have those tropes and all of that, but I loved how the ending was. Like the climax was really interesting. What she understands about herself and her relationship with her father, and what he understands about himself, all of those revelations were very adult, very like 2022, very current and very relevant. And it wasn't just like this whimsical floozy sort of chick lit book. So I really enjoyed it because it was beyond just the romance as well. I think I gave it like a 4 on 5 again, and I will definitely be reading more from Emily Henry. So that's about it for today. Those were some of the great books that I've read over the last 5 months now, and I will continue to come here and give you more such juice soon, I promise. And the other thing that I want to also promise you is that I have gone and bought like a ton of books, like a ton over the last like 6 months. And so in my next video I will show you the whole haul. It's a lot, so like stay tuned for that. And let me know if you've read any of these books in the comments below. Tell me what you thought about it, if you liked something, if you didn't like something, and all of that good stuff. Like this video, subscribe to this channel, because all of that is important as well. And yeah, I will see you soon with either a book video or an art video or both, or a vlog. I don't know, let's mix it up. Okay, that's it from me. Bye for now.